Good evening. This is the First Lady Erica, and we're here for the mozone tonight. I wanted to talk to Dr. Katrina Hutchins of I'm God's Girl for Real, and it's for a very special reason. With everything that's going on around us, how do we remain calm? How do we remain focused? And how do we remain in God's grace? And I'm just going to go ahead and let you see her, the beautiful Dr. Katrina Hutchins. I'm so happy to be able to have you here tonight, that you're like approachable and had time to squeeze me in, because I know you're really, really busy.
Listen, it is my honor. I am so excited. I'm always so honored to have invitations extended. You know, I don't take it lightly that people invite me, because they don't have to invite me. So thank you so much for inviting me into your space. I so appreciate what you're doing and how you are creating a platform for women to just hear from other women. There is great power in us being able to hear from each other, speak to each other, support each other, lift each other. And so thank you for all that you're doing.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I really like talking to people, and I like, I guess I feel if I have a thought or a concern, I'm sure someone else has the same thought or concern. Maybe not everybody, but somebody might want to hear it, and somebody may need to know it. What I notice about you, you're a Carolina girl, aren't you?
I am a Carolina girl, born and raised in South Carolina. Of course, I'm in Florida now, but a part of my heart is in South Carolina because I still have family there. So my mom is still there. My children are there. So yeah, so my grandchildren are there. So a part of my heart really is still in South Carolina, but I've been in Florida for the last 2 years.
I'm from Charleston, South Carolina, right?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah.
You don't have,
People call it Chucktown.
Yes, but I don't hear it in your dialect, so it's so interesting.
Girl, I can talk like that if I want to,
There it is. I have some really sweet friends in Charleston, and I do know they can turn on and off. So I love hearing it, though. I think it's so.
I can tell them girls at home. I can tell them I love it. I still hear. I know somebody might kick my butt for doing that though, but yeah. That's where I'm born and raised. My grandma's from Orangeburg, and I was raised in Charleston. My sisters went to state, and I was in the Army. I went to Fort Jackson. My two brothers went to Harris Island. So no, we're deep.
Excellent.
So that was a big journey. You have lots of education. You got your master's in social work. You even did that from South Carolina. Did you?
I did. So I did my undergrad studies at Columbia College in South Carolina, Columbia, and then the University of South Carolina for my master's degree. My doctorate is from Northeastern University in Boston. So anyway, 2 in social work, 2 degrees in social work, but then this last degree is in organizational leadership. So that's kind of where I focus my work energy, work time is in my consulting company, working with organizations, agencies, institutions, really helping them build their organizational capacity, build their teams, ultimately build their people. So this degree in organizational leadership has really served me well in the work that I do. Coaching, workshops, seminars, virtual trainings at this point.
Right.
So much of my work is happening virtually right now because of the climate we're in. But nevertheless, I love technology for that reason, because so much of what I do can happen from right where I am. So I've been really blessed in that regard. On top of that, I'm teaching in the 2 institutions that I just named. I'm actually teaching at Columbia College, leading the organizational leadership graduate program at Columbia College and teaching in that program. But I'm also teaching doctoral students now at Southeastern University in Lakeland, Florida. So both of those programs are online programs. So again, I get to do all of that from the comfort of my home office. So I'm very grateful and blessed in that regard.
Wow, that's amazing. So those are okay, that's at least three things right there. So that's teaching in two schools. And then it's like a training organizational program. And then there's your personal mission, which is the I'm God's Girl.
Yes.
Tell me about that one.
That's so near and dear to my heart. So the I'm God's Girl for Real network is actually a Facebook network. So if any of you who are listening and you're not a part of the I'm God's Girl for Real network, just scoot on over there and request to join. But the I'm God's Girl for Real network just kind of really started for me several years ago. I had been through some really challenging times in my life, just some dark places, just things that happen as a result of living on our journeys, right? And it was just really not a good time for me, but I watched God bring me through those things. And as I would speak about it, as I would talk about it, I would always interject, but I'm God's girl for real, meaning I know that I'm flawed. I know that I'm not perfect. I know that I don't cross every T. I don't dot every I. But one thing that I'm certain of is that he loves me, right? And he loves me for real. So I would always say, so I'm his girl for real. And so I just kind of kept saying that as my own personal mantra. And it started kind of picking up with some of my close friends and, you know, a few other women. So about 5 years ago, I just did like a luncheon, like about 25 friends and friends of friends. And we just kind of gathered for lunch, and it was kind of our first I'm God's Girl for Real. We had our little t-shirts and everything. And I'll never forget, it was kind of like in the back of this restaurant. We just occupied that space. Fast forward to last year, was the 4th year of the I'm God's Girl for Real conference. We filled a ballroom.
Wow.
Right? Women, over 200 women came from all over the country, literally, to Orlando, Florida for the conference. And so the network has grown kind of from those 25 women gathering in a restaurant to, you know, almost 3,500 members in the network now. And so just very grateful watching the hand of God do what he does. And in the midst of planning now for the I'm God's Girl for Real virtual conference. So that's coming on October 31st. So I'm super excited about that as well.
Well, that's great. Right on time, right for my birthday.
Is your birthday October 31st?
The 23rd, thank goodness.
23rd, okay.
Yeah.
So you have to treat yourself to a birthday gift. You have to gift yourself the conference for your birthday. That would be amazing.
Oh, yeah. So you growing up in South Carolina, you're married now to a minister.
Yes.
Did you see any of this coming? Like you were going to school in South Carolina. What was your goal at the time while you were in school? Did you see any of this? Had you planned for any of this? Like, I want to start a women's organization. I want to live this life.
You know what's really interesting about my journey, and I think just interesting about our journeys overall, is that, you know, I believe God only gives us glimpses and pieces, right? Because if he let us see everything, we would probably mess it up. Let's just be honest. And so while I did not see all of this, what I was able to do is see things in hindsight. You know how you can go through things And it could be the good, the bad, and the ugly. And you don't understand it, fully understand it while you're in the middle of it. And sometimes it's only when you can look back and you can then understand, okay, now I understand why that happened, because that was connected to this. And so to answer your question, I believe I've been able to see my life in part. So, and depending upon what season I'm in. So if I'm in this season, it's almost like I can look back and understand this season better. But it's also preparing me for the next season, because I really believe that God is always preparing us for what is to come. He's already preparing us for the next season. He is always equipping us for what is to come. And so while I could not kind of have this forecast, look this far into my future and see this, one of the things that I take great comfort in is the fact that He holds my future. So whatever that is, right? Whatever that is, I know that He's preparing me for the future He holds, because I really believe that before the foundation of the world, He had a plan and a purpose and a destiny already carved out for my life. So He even saw this moment. He saw our connection, right? Because it was for an appointed time. And so I find great peace, great surrender, just kind of great calm in the sense of knowing that God has had a plan. He has a plan, and He's walking me through that plan to my ultimate destiny. So I'm just kind of enjoying this journey. I'm just enjoying the journey as we go.
I've always seen it like we're like, each one of us is like the prodigal son. You've been taught information, well, most of us have been taught, like, you raised up in church and you know right from wrong, and then you have to go out and experience it and check the temperature, and then like, okay, I've seen enough, let's come back now.
Yes. And so and that's what I mean. It is really filled kind of with, as I said, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It would be wonderful if we could just tell these amazing stories about our journey that only involve the good pieces, right? Only involve the good parts. We would love to just be able to tell those mountaintop stories, what it was like to be on the mountaintop. But I will tell you, my greatest lessons have come during my time in the valley, not my time on the mountain, right? It was during those times of hardship, those times of failure, those times of disappointment, those times of darkness. But one of the things that I ultimately came to recognize, that the God of the mountain was also the God of the valley. And so that I could trust Him in the valley, just like I was trusting Him while I was celebrating on the mountaintop. He was the same God that I could now trust in these hard places, in these places that didn't feel good. But I had to recognize that He was working it for my good. That's what the Word of God tells us, that all things, mountaintop things, valley things, all of these things are working for our good. So
yes, work together for the good.
Kind of that trust has been kind of the keeping power for me. It's just trusting God and believing that I am really situated and centered in the palm of His hand.
So today's Dr. Hutchins, what would you tell your younger self, high school, college, to keep you going to get to where you are today? What's one thing you wish you could, one message you could send yourself?
I think release the power of they. Release the power of they. And when I say the power of they, it's that thinking of, what will they say? How will they feel? What will they do? What do they believe? Right? It would have caused me to not give my power away, because of self-imposed or imposed opinions, definitions, all of those things that we can take on if we're not careful, right? So if to my younger self, I would have wanted to have that understanding so much earlier,
I'm
because
worried
it
about
would have
that. Yeah.
preserved, right? It would have preserved me having to go back and reclaim this sense of identity that I lost along the way, right? So I would have wanted to hold on to my identity and not give it away because of what they thought, what they would do, what they, you see what I'm saying?
I
So
totally see what you're saying.
that
It's
lesson,
absolutely exhausting worrying about
oh
what
my
other
God,
people think.
absolutely.
And it's funny that you say that because I just had a conversation with a friend last night, and we were discussing, you know, people. People, you're like 40 and 50, and you're worried. Oh, I know you were mad at me, or you know, you're scared to talk to people because you think they're mad at you, or you think someone's looking at you, or you think someone's saying something about you, or you know, I have a conversation with one of my family members, and she always says this, like, oh, I'm so sorry. I know you're probably mad at me. And I'm like, she begins the phone call with that. And I'm like, what are you talking about? What am I mad about?
Mm-hmm.
What am I, what are these feelings like? I don't have all these feelings and assignments. But even if I did, my God, if you're worried about how everybody around you feels about you, then it would be.
Absolutely. It is so important that we understand our God identity, our God identity, you know, understanding what God says about us, who God says we are. And when we can fully embrace that, it starts to counteract those other voices. When we can move closer to our God identity, it starts to give us the power that we need to really step out of those other kind of layers. You know, I talked about living a counterfeit life. You know, sometimes we just cover until we are unrecognizable.